Hello, everyone. This is Inside Nollywood Conversation, where we discuss happenings around the film and TV business in Nigeria. And in today's episode, we are going to join by one of the fan Africanists who have been following happenings around Africa as a demography and Africa as a race. In today's conversation, we'll be discussing about Africa and the kind of danger Africa first when it comes to single storytelling. And has been an issue that has been affecting Africa for a while because everybody knows Africa with one story, and this most of the story is coming from elsewhere, not to be frank, Africa, and the issue is creating a lot of hiccups, a lot of challenges, a lot of difficulties when it comes to knowing what exactly is African lifestyle, what is exactly African culture, what exactly Africa represents. And today, to dichotomize and digest this topic of Africa and the danger of single storytelling through our broadcast medium and through our themes and through the works of art, theme as an art, and through brightest of documentary projects and many more. And to do justice, we are joined by Dr. Eileen, a fan Africanist, someone who has been working in Africa for a very long time.
Hi.
And I do believe uh, Dr. Eileen will do justice to some of these issues, and she will elaborately say so much and clear a lot of might, a lot of doubts, because she is let me call it a kind of information powerhouse when it comes to Africa. I'm telling you, if you want to know more about Africa, you should not come to people like me. You should come to people like Dr. Eileen, because be it entertainment, be it uh, culture, be it security, be it business wise, be it investments, anything Africa, I'm telling you, we are going to get it from Dr. Eileen. Dr. Eileen, welcome to Inside Nollywood Conversations.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me here today. Can you hear me okay? I just want to make sure that everything you can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you, Dr. Eileen.
Okay, great. All right. So should I introduce myself?
Yeah, it's more better. It's just that I welcome you. So please tell us more about yourself. How do you start it? And tell us about yourself. Introduce yourself.
Hi. So I'm Dr. Eileen Chang Sudbury, and then I am the co-founder of the African Youth Diaspora Organization, as well as a member of Parliament for the state of African diaspora. I'm also the head of diaspora for the film Creative Mind Association and Lens of Africa, in which include the University Incubator Expo. I currently live in California, along the Silicon Valley Belt, and my second home is in Africa. So this is me. Thanks for having me here.
Wow. Wow, that's amazing. That is amazing. Tell us how your love, what is your and for many people who have just seen you on camera, would like to know what is the relationship between Dr. Eileen and Africa, and how this relationship started.
Well, I started as the director of outreach for the Model United Nations for our first Model United Nations in Johannesburg. And then later on, I also organized a Dubai Model United Nations event. During that time, I was responsible for recruiting all the ambassadors from the Africa side, and they are youth ambassadors. And then that's when I started to understand their stories in a way that I didn't expect, because of course, when you're in the U.S., the stories about Africa is mostly about Boko Haram and violence and you know, starvation, children with big bellies, with flies in the eyes. So it's just a very skewered description of Africa, the Africa that we know. And so after the story and then understanding the injustice that the continent has suffered, um, I became intimately involved in really trying to empower the continent as well as people of African descent. Thank you.
Amazing. That is amazing. But to be frank, what do you know about the film and TV industry in Africa?
Well, to be truthful, I don't really, how do I say that? I see that as a medium, um, a tool to,
Oh, yes.
sorry, a call just came in, so I hope you can hear me. So I see that media as an instrument for brand management, for the collective empowerment of people of African descent and the continent as well. Uh, and via that, I met the CEO of Inside Nollywood, and then together we created the Lens of Africa, as well as partnering with other media giants such as the Music Sports League from the USA, and we're trying to do what we can in order to be able to basically achieve our visions and missions of changing the story, that really telling the authentic stories of Africa using media. Yeah, so that's it.
Oh, wow, wow. Music, film, entertainment, events. What a
And
marriage.
esports, and esports, esports is
Yeah,
big
yeah.
now.
Oh. Before we got into the main topic of our discussion, uh, how are you seeing storytelling from from a diaspora perspective? Is Africa doing well in telling the authentic story of the continent to the outside world?
Well, I feel that it's really about distribution, right? Like you can create content, but then you also need to have the right carriers of message, message carriers to deliver the message. And right now, the global south, the way they carry message, the infrastructure for content creation as well as distribution is much controlled by the global north. So we need to come together to really change that dynamic. And the way you do it is by doing that systematically. And what do I mean by that? When I said to brand management, today I actually really want to talk. I have an agenda in mind, right? I want to talk about the brand
Oh,
management of Africa. And
yeah.
so, if you don't mind that I dive into that a little bit, just how, because we can talk about what's not working, but we should also talk about what's our solution that can make it work. Yeah.
Okay,
So
no
if
problem.
mhm.
You
All right.
can.
All right. So I think that we can do this systematically. But first, there are really two main steps. The first step is really understanding what it means to be an Africanite. Of course, I hope you don't get offense when I said, oh, what do you mean by being an African? Because, I'm not a black African, and you look at me as like, who are you to tell us what African, is? But I really feel like it helps sometimes to pull away and then look at the situation from a third person's perspective. So when you have contrast, that's when you can really understand that, when you're not in a bubble, then you can really see clearly. So I think it's really important to really identify what it means to be an African. When you have an education system with elementary history that teaches European history first before teaching African history, when you have most of the major official language in Africa that are English or French or Portuguese and Arabic, and it's just we really need to prioritize like the values and the traditions and the language and the culture. We need to perpetuate that, and that's really important. Um, to help understand the values. What does it mean to be an African, right? And then once you have that, then you can like, okay, now you need strategy. What kind of strategy do you need to make this happen? The strategies, in my mind, I have this strategy that the
Amma
blueprint,
dai kakka
and
bari
then
za ta sake wale ka ba. In an kai ka dawo da kai saboda
Musa? Yeah, okay, sorry. So the strategy that I'm talking about involve four pillars of power. And which four pillars of powers are those? Number one, governance. From the head of state, African Union, as well as policy procedures and laws and regulations. because that's what set up the infrastructure, the social infrastructure. That's the basic, what set up the basic social infrastructure of the continent as well as individual African countries. Number two, okay, Musa, I hear background noise. So yeah, there you go. Number two, the second pillars of power is economic trade bloc. You can have a machine, but if you don't have fuel, the machine won't work. So you need AFCFTA, ECOWAS, EAC, East African Community, SADC, to help you to power the machine. Okay, so when I'm talking about this, we're talking about stakeholders. All these stakeholders should be part of the game, right? And number three, community leaders such as traditional rulers, universities, NGOs, as well as industrial experts like Nollywood, like Cape Town, like Everywood, or you can say it Jollywood, and as well as the Chamber of Commerce, NGO, like students, youth, women, informal sectors. They all need to come together to create, to actualize this vision of what, how will you want the world to see Africa. Number four pillar of power is the African diaspora worldwide, because there's so much content. Like, why is that important? African diaspora. Why are they important stakeholders? I'm gonna give you an example. In 2020, on Africa Day, George Floyd was murdered in front of the world. Do you think that people know whether he's African or African diaspora, whether he's Namibian or South African or Tanzanian? No, he is African descent. And therefore, when we're talking about brand management of Africa, it's not just about the continent. It's not just about individual countries in Africa. We're talking about African descent as a whole. And that's why the African diaspora is important. Okay, so and these four stakeholders, or four powers of pillars, when they can come together and decide a blueprint to really shape the conversation about Africa and African descent, that's when that's when our reality, how the world sees us, will change. And why is that important? Think about this, right? When a country borrow money to develop their road and land and infrastructure, the interest rate depends on the perception of risk. When they think of a country or a continent as risky because there's conflicts, unmanageable conflicts, at least that's what the media tell us, right? The global North media tell us. Then the interest rate goes high. And so when you develop a country, when you make the revenue that you make, and most of the money goes to paying the interest rate instead of developing the country, that becomes a problem. This is one of the reasons why Africa is underdeveloped. And this is why it's so important to use media as a medium to tell the authentic story of Africa, which is, to me, peaceful, in a way homogeneous. And everybody was like, okay, there are 55 countries in Africa, and Africa is a continent, it's not a country. Yes, we know that. But I also realized one thing. You will never see a South American call themselves South American. You will never see a North American call themselves North American. You will never see a Middle Easterners call themselves Middle Easterners. But you will find Tanzanians, Ghanaian, Nigerians call themselves Africans. And the Ubuntu spirit is so strong in Africa. And that's why when we are trying to actualize this vision and mission of telling the authentic story of Africa, we need to come together and do it together and be very strategic about it. So that's it. That's what I want to say. Thank you for letting me talking about this.
Wow, you said so much and introduced me into lots more of things. And this is a kind of integrations that if we could be able to integrate the world stuff together, we can tell a bigger stories and the industry could be so vibrant. And maybe this is how we could be able to discuss even the main topic of our discussion, Africa and the danger of single story. How Africans, you said Ghanaians, Nigerians, Zimbabweans, Burkinabe, and all other people, Senegalese, can we come together and create a culture, a storyline that we will all be able to promote, transform, and tell our own story? How do you think how do you think this could be can be materialized?
Well, I think a lot of people are doing that already. And I also feel that it's about prioritization, because when you have money, like we get aid, a lot of like, aid from IMF, World Bank. And I think that we need to prioritize and saying that, you know what, this is really important. We need to make sure that the creative industry actually have the funding that they need to do their job. Because I'm going to give you an example. Do you know the brand value of the British royal family? Do you know what that is? What is the brand value of the British royal family according to Statista? Can you guess?
Not really.
So the brand value, like brand value is not tangible, it's intangible assets, meaning that, if you, for example, Coca-Cola is just sugar water. And the reason that they can sell you Coca-Cola for $1 a bottle instead of 10 cents, which is the cost of the ingredient, really, 10 cents, is because of the brand. The rest of the 90 cents is the brand. So it's the same as the royal family. The royal family's value, just being royal, is $100 billion. Think about what that can do for Africa. That's why we need to create an Africa brand, a positive Africa brand. There you go.
Meaning we should stop promoting national brand. We should promote continental brand. Is that what you are trying to say?
No, I'm talking about, like, Africa has 55 countries according to AU. So each country will do their own thing. They still need to, promote their brand. But whatever they do is going to contribute to the value of the Africa brand as a whole. That's what I'm trying to say.
Oh, that is amazing. So let's get into the main topic of the day, Africa and the danger of single story. I mean, what are the dangers of single story and in Africa? What kind of stories, what kind of single stories we are sharing with the world that
Well,
are
yeah, I think I kind of mentioned that. It's about the risk is about financial. Like, if you have a negative brand, what's going to happen is you're going to have to borrow capital, the money that you need to use to invest in infrastructure at a higher interest rate. That's number one. Number two, it perpetuates a story that's not true, and in fact, the worldwide African descent. There's historically systemic racism that we are dealing with. We're dealing with also oppressions, right? Racial oppressions. And things like this can totally be changed because there is no reason why um, the whole of continents or the individual countries should be so misportrayed. And we're just simply asking to tell authentic story and then making sure that the message are carried throughout the world. So I hope that helps to answer your questions.
oh, and we have you talk about Boko Haram, kind of security insurgency across West Africa, North Africa, and kind of droughts and other economic difficulties going on in the Southern Africa. Do you think using film and TV medium we could be able to change all these narrations?
Definitely, and I actually would love to be able to invite some of the people, some of the audience to talk about that, because some of the audience with us, they are actually a lot more. They're in the film industry. They know the power of storytelling. So you'll be great. Definitely. I mean, if you just ask me a yes or no answer, the answer is yes, definitely. Um, Telling authentic stories of Africa is very essential to a continent, the nations, as well as a people's identity. And I want to also say that I've kind of like explained to Obina, which is the CEO of Inside Nollywood, that my time is a little bit tight today. So I wanted to see if we can maybe spend some time in question and answers, and then we can cut off in about 5 minutes or so, if
Oh,
that's possible.
also, if there is the case, if there is the case, we are happy to have you for now, and you have said a lot. But
Okay.
please say something about what can you say? about Nollywood as a film industry. I mean, the second largest film industry in the world.
There's a lot of potential, and I make posted some articles. I mean, I hope that anybody who's listening in right now, please connect with me, Dr. Eileen, CO on LinkedIn. You know, C for Charlie, O for Oprah. Dr. Eileen, Eileen, on LinkedIn, and then I did make some posts regarding Nollywood. Um, there's one post that was we got I got a lot of reaction concerning Gangs of Legos. Gangs of Legos is a film that is published on Amazon Prime. And then when I watched the film, I thought the film was really good, but it also bought into the narrative of the Hollywood narrative. It was very violent. It was very, I mean, it talks about love between different ethnicity group, such as the Yoruba and the Igbo, but and at the same time, it was very like it really focuses on the negative side of the society. And I'm just wondering in terms of timing, if that is actually the best way to go about that, because I felt like timing is really important. You want to tell a story at the right time to the right people with the right background in the right context. Right now, the top GDP growth in the world are in Africa. Do we really want to just tell people, give people's impression that Africa is dangerous, there's a lot of gang and violence? You know, I think it has to, it's okay. I mean, you know, we shouldn't really oppress creative mind, but at the same time, I really feel like that should be a balance, you know, between the positive and the reality, if, you know, if that's the case. Your mic is muted. We cannot hear you. Your mic is muted.
Oh, what kind of stories do you think Nollywood and other film houses, film industry across Africa should start telling about Africa collectively in order to drive solutions?
You know, I have this in mind. We're creating a platform where everybody and anybody with a phone can upload their in respective stories onto a platform where they can actually publish Afrocentric content. We are also creating platform at in the academia field to really focus on Afrocentric content creations. So these are some of the solutions that we're working on, among other things. But really, the power these days and age, we have so much social media accessibility. There's no reason why anybody in Africa has a phone to talk about the story of Africa. Trying to make it a little bit more on the positive side, as well as focusing on the brand management of Africa, because the world is watching, right? And then also I would like us to kind of steer away from saying, you know, the victim mentality and really focusing on, yes, we can, we're doing this, we're doing that, you know. And actually, I wanted to mention Walter Meyer. He's a really good content creator, and
Oh,
he focuses a
the
lot on
Ghanaian.
yes, he focuses a lot on positive branding of Africa. And some people like Mark Anthony Johnson on LinkedIn, he has about 100,000 followers, and he also focuses a lot on positive branding of Africa, but also, you know, he tells the story, what's real, so that he has a lot of credibility as well.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah.
Those are good
This is how.
examples.
Oh,
Yes,
what you said? Ah,
those are good examples of positive
oh,
branding of Africa. Yes.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
And we have to.
uh-huh. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, Mutu, go ahead.
I just wanted to say that I kind of need to wrap this up because we started a little late. But if it's okay for us to continue in this next session, that would be great. Because I
Oh,
think, yeah, I've talked mostly like the most important parts of what I wanted to say today. I have already mentioned that. So if we could like, you know, like maybe close it.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, that is all right. That is all right. But before then, so we could wrap up this session now. Uh, what can you say? Can you tell us where are you seeing the African film and TV industry, to be specific, Nollywood, in 5 to 10 years? And it is the impact story from this film and TV industry across Africa and Nollywood, to be specific, in 5 to 10 years.
Well, I think that it's going to be, you've got to understand statistically, by 2030, one out of every four labor force in the world is going to be African descent. So I feel like this is a time to really tell the Africa story in an authentic manner, in a positive manner, because this is going to shape the conversation and the direction we're going. Also, the brand value of African descent. This is a time to really focus on and prioritize, um, focusing on Afrocentric content, focusing on positive branding. It will you will you will have so much influence. Like this moment in time is going to have so much effect 10 to 20 years down the road. And I would really suggest anybody who's listening to this, come together, work with the government, work with your local communities, work with universities, work with African Diaspora Association to come together and create positive impact in the film and the creative industry for Africa and African descent.
So thank you very much, Dr. Eileen, for joining us this evening. We do appreciate having you, and we do believe it's not that easy to join us, but you, with all the tight you do, you decided to join us. On behalf of the production crew here at Inside Nollywood, I remain yours, Musa Sunusiyama, saying thanks for joining us, and we do hope you join us next time when invited. Thank you.
Thank you.
Uh, Listeners, here we come to the end of today's episode, and we do hope you join us next week for another fresh episode of Inside Nollywood Conversation.